Discover how a heartwarming encounter with a broken billionaire transformed a night shift receptionist's life. The sirens were a constant reminder of the chaos outside. Jill sat at her desk in the community health clinic, her fingers tapping nervously on the keyboard. She was showing up for her mother, who lay in a hospital bed fighting an illness that seemed to drag on with no end in sight. Her days were filled with worry about rent, groceries, and something as simple as her mother's medication. Yet, somewhere deep within, Jill clung to the dreams of a better life, a life where her mother could smile again, without pain, without fear. That night, as she welcomed patients in the watery glow of flickering fluorescent lights, a new arrival stepped into the clinic. Jack, a man cloaked in an expensive suit, his features etched with despair, slumped into the waiting room. His world seemed to weigh heavy on his shoulders, hidden behind the facade of wealth. Jill noticed him instantly. An invisible thread, drawn by their shared burdens, pulled them closer. "Are you okay?" she ventured, a rare note of concern slipping into her routine banter. He glanced up, startled, revealing haunted eyes that told stories of struggles she'd never known. She watched as he nodded, yet he looked so lost, so out of place amid the peeling paint and scattered magazines of the clinic. She offered him a warm smile, and for a moment, a flicker of hope danced in his expression. Their conversations became a welcome routine. Jack shared tales of his empire, the highs and lows, and Jill wove in her everyday battles for survival. They were two souls wrapped in loneliness, seeking refuge in each other's company. Every moment spent together felt like a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, illuminating their shared pain. But whispers of his past began to seep through the neighborhood like a storm. Jill could hear it, rumors of Jack's past as a relentless businessman who had run small markets into the ground. It created cracks in their friendship, and she felt twisted in a knot of loyalty. Could she stand by him when her community rallied against what they believed was a predator? Her heart sank as her mother's warnings filled her thoughts, urging her to choose her community over a stranger. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just when Jill thought the tide couldn't get any rougher, news broke of a scandal involving Jack that sent shockwaves through her community. It spiraled. A newspaper article detailed years of his greed and the pain he inadvertently caused, painting him as a villain where she had seen a friend. The chaos drained her resolve, making her question everything about forgiveness and loyalty. Was she ready to confront her beliefs about redemption? Torn between the man who had been vulnerable with her and the community she loved, Jill found herself at a crossroads that she never could have imagined. As her mother's health deteriorated, Jill was left wondering if anyone was truly deserving of compassion, or if they were all just trying to survive in a world that demanded so much. Could the weight of her divided existence finally be lifted? The answer felt just out of reach, shimmering against the backdrop of pain and possibility. Jill's heart raced as she pored over the details of Jack's scandal. Each line of the article felt like a dagger in her gut, twisting her feelings into a confusing knot. She had shared her laughter and tears with him, had listened to him speak about dreams and failures that echoed her own struggles. Now, the man she had come to care for was painted as the enemy. Every corner of her small town buzzed with the scandal. It was a sort of chaotic energy that pushed against her chest and made her want to scream. How could you help someone like him? Her co-workers would whisper, eyes wide with judgment. Each look had been a silent accusation, a reminder of the gulf widening between them. Could she defend Jack when her own community was so deeply hurt by his presence? The fluorescent lights flickered, casting shadows across Jill's desk as she stared into space, wrestling with her thoughts. How could Jack be so flawed and yet relatable? He was real just like her. They shared this bond that broke through their social divides, but the weight of community pressure was heavier than she had anticipated. She felt trapped between two worlds, Her loyalty to Jack and her allegiance to her mother's teachings, which told her to protect her own. With the clinic quieting down for the night, she gathered her things and stepped into the cool evening air, the chill biting at her skin. The streets were alive with chatter, residents whispering about Jack's faults, clutching their coffee cups like shields. The pain in Jill's heart deepened as she walked towards the park, seeking solace under the soft glow of the street lamps. Underneath the murmur of criticism surrounding her, Jill felt something stir. Wasn't she allowed to form her own opinion? She remembered Jack, not as a villain, but as a man trying to navigate his own pain. He had shared stories of sleepless nights spent worrying about the people he let down. Could it be that he was just another survivor, scarred and struggling? The hard truth hit her like a gust of wind. Everyone had flaws. Was it right to hold someone else's past against them forever? Her mother's struggle was a constant reminder that life was fragile, and the best of intentions didn't always end up right. She punched in Jack's number on her phone, tapping her foot anxiously on the pavement. Each ring felt like a small eternity. Jack's voice dripped with concern the moment he answered, the weight of their friendship flooding back into the conversation. "I need to see you," she blurted, the honesty spilling out like a long-held breath. "Please, can we talk?" She could hear the shift in his tone, a mix of relief and worry. "Of course," he replied, his voice softening. "I'll be at the cafe in 10. As she moved towards the cafe, her heart pounded. What would she say? How could she balance understanding her own emotions while addressing the hurt rippling through her community? The stakes felt high, and the world seemed to hinge on this meeting. Would she be able to face the truth of Jack's past and determine if her faith in him was misplaced? Or would she discover something new that shifted her perception and illuminated a path forward? The questions buzzed in her mind like the electricity of a storm, and she couldn't help wondering if she was about to step into another whirlwind of uncertainty. Jill pushed through the door of the cafe, the warmth wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, but it did little to ease her nerves. The familiar scent of fresh coffee and baked goods filled the air, and she scanned the room for Jack. He sat in the far corner, his face partially shadowed by his tousled hair, looking like he had aged years since the article broke. Taking a deep breath, she approached the table. Jack looked up, his eyes acknowledging her with a blend of relief and despair. She slid into the seat across from him, the distance between them somehow feeling like a chasm. "Hey," he said softly, searching her expression for answers. "Hey," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. It felt strange to see him so vulnerable, so unlike the man she knew, a man full of smiles and determination. "I wasn't sure if you'd come," he confessed, running a hand through his hair. Jill's chest tightened. "I had to. There is so much. I don't even know where to begin." Jack nodded, leaning in slightly as if he feared she might bolt. "I know things look bad, and I don't have excuses, just a lot of regrets." His voice was rough, each word tinged with sorrow. "What happened, Jack? Why did you let it get this far?" Her heart ached for him, but she also craved answers. The community was fractured, and she couldn't ignore the pain that had spread through her town like wildfire. "I thought I could handle it all. The pressure, the expectations, they piled up until I cracked." He paused, taking a deep breath, the weight of his confession hanging in the air. "I thought I could do it alone, but I was wrong." Jill felt tears prickling her eyes. "You're not alone, Jack. You never were. Why didn't you reach out? Why didn't you let me in?" Her voice shook, emotions pouring out like a floodgate unleashed. "What could you have done?" His voice was heavy, a mixture of frustration and deep-seated pain. "It's my mess, not yours. I didn't want to drag you into it. You're my friend," she shot back, the urgency of her words gaining momentum. "I wanted to help. I still want to help." The silence hung heavily. Jack's gaze flickered. Then he looked down at the table, tracing the grain of the wood with his fingertips. "I didn't think you'd understand. I thought that you might judge me, too." Jill felt an ache in her heart at his admission, the reality of his isolation now more apparent. "You mean so much to me. I can't just walk away because things get hard." His eyes met hers, softer now, vulnerability spilling forth. I don't want you to regret standing by me. I don't want to be the reason you're judged. There's a difference between fear and regret, Jack, she countered. If you're my friend, let me in. Let me see the real you, the good and the bad. He swallowed hard, emotion tightening his throat. I've already messed up so much, Jill. Yeah, we all mess up, she said, a hint of determination in her voice. But it doesn't mean we can't move forward. Jack leaned back in his chair, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. But Jill could feel the weight of the world still pressing down on him. Can we try? He asked finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Jill nodded slowly. Yeah, let us try. Together. But as hope began to weave a fragile thread between them, the door swung open, bringing with it a gust of cold air and a familiar figure, a reporter. Jill's heart sank as she recognized the face, her mind racing. What did this mean for Jack's fragile momentum? Jack, the reporter called out eagerly, raising her camera. Can we get a word? Jill's breath hitched in her throat, fear creeping back like shadows. What would this mean for everything they had just started to build? The moment of truth loomed, ready to challenge their connection as chaos resurfaced. Would Jack be able to withstand the storm that reality brought crashing down on them? Jill's heart raced as she registered the reporter's eager expression. Jack's initial spark of hope flickered, dimmed by the sudden intrusion. The cafe, once a safe haven, suddenly felt claustrophobic. She had thought they were on the verge of something vital, of true understanding, but now that moment was teetering on the edge of collapse. Jack, could you share a few thoughts about the article? The public is really concerned, the reporter pressed, her voice sharp yet controlled, aimed to cut through the warm atmosphere of the cafe. Not now, Jack shot back, his tone more defensive than intended. He appeared anxious, lips tight as he glanced at Jill, searching her eyes for reassurance. Please, just a minute, the reporter added, undeterred. Her determination was palpable. People are looking for answers. You have a responsibility, Jack. You owe them this. Do I owe them? What about what I owe to myself? He leaned forward, voice rising slightly, each word dripping with emotion. Jill placed a hand on his arm, trying to ground him, to pull him back from the edge of that unleashed storm. Let us just talk. Okay? She whispered, softening the tense atmosphere. You don't have to answer her. You can choose how to handle this. He hesitated, wavering between anger and hurt. The guilt from the past mingled with this fresh pressure, forming a tight knot in his chest. But Jill's presence, her steadiness, somehow calmed the turmoil inside him. Look, he began, his voice quieter now. I get it. I do. But I can't right now. I'm trying to put my life back together. You think I'm doing this for fun? The reporter interjected, eyes flashing with indignation. People want to know how someone like you could fall so hard. It's a bigger story than just you. That stung, and Jill could see Jack recoil slightly, the weight of her words hitting him like a physical blow. She dared to look into Jack's eyes, silently promising him that she wouldn't let this moment define them. Maybe some questions can wait, Jill finally said, feeling the surge of protectiveness rise within her. This isn't just about headlines. It's about people's lives, Jack's life. And if anyone deserves a moment of grace, it's him. The reporter hesitated, glancing between them, perhaps trying to gauge the strength of their connection. But Jack remained still, his gaze locked on Jill, the warmth of her hand on his arm as a tether to reality. People make mistakes, she continued, her voice steady. But what counts is how they get back up. That's the story worth telling. Jack's breath felt caught in his throat, each word shaking loose fragments of long-buried hope. I'm not the only one affected by this, Jill, he said carefully, vulnerability creeping back in. The fallout, it's bigger than me. I know, she replied with determination. But you can't fix everything at once. Start with you. You're here now, let us not lose that. He swallowed hard, the truth starting to sink in. The reporter, sensing a shift, lowered her camera slightly, intrigued. All right, Jack. We can reschedule. Just know that I'll be around, she conceded, lowering her tone. People need clarity. As the reporter backed away, Jill felt the tension in Jack's shoulders ease just a bit. "Thank you," he whispered, looking grateful yet still conflicted. The moment hung delicately between them, a fragile equilibrium too precious to disturb. But within that silence, Jill felt the familiar stir of determination. If they could face this together, they could face anything. The weight of the cafe felt lighter somehow, even as the world outside continued to push against them. "Tomorrow," she suggested, a smile breaking through. "Start again tomorrow. Just us. No distractions. We can figure this out." "Yeah," Jack said, a sliver of hope igniting once more. Together. But just as Jill felt the warmth of renewed connection, her phone buzzed violently on the table. Swiftly, she glanced at the screen, the message turning her expression pale. "Oh no, this can't be happening," Jack noticed and leaned closer. "What is it?" As Jill's face twisted into shock, questions swirled. Had the chaos only just begun? What new battle were they about to face? Jill felt as though the ground beneath her feet had crumbled. Her fingers trembled as she glanced at the phone again, heart sinking further. The message echoed in her mind, "We need to talk." It's about Jack. She could barely process it. Jack's presence next to her felt like an anchor, yet the current of that dread was pulling her away. "What's wrong, Jill?" Jack's voice was tight with concern, cutting through the fog in her mind. He reached for her, but her gaze remained fixated on the screen, as if that might somehow change what it said. "It's from my boss," she finally managed to say, voice trembling. "He wants to meet. Soon." Jack's brow furrowed. "About what? Is it about me? I can't deal with anything more right now." "Jack, it's not your fault," she said quickly, though panic clawed at her insides. "I don't know what he wants. It can't be good." A silence stretched between them, punctuated only by the distant hum of the cafe. Outside, the city moved on, but in that moment, they were suspended in uncertainty. Jill squeezed Jack's arm, desperate to convey her determination to navigate through this. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it together," she promised, but even as she said it, doubt crept in. What if it was far worse than either of them could handle? Jack looked down at the table, his fingers drumming nervously against the wood. "If it's about me, about the past, I don't know. We won tea, let it be that way," Jill interjected, urgency propelling her words forward. "You're more than just what happened. You're here, you're trying to move on. That's what matters." He met her gaze, the vulnerability in his eyes a mirror to her own fear. They were both in the storm, struggling not to drown. "But what if they dig deeper?" Jack asked, voice barely above a whisper. "What if they find out everything?" "I won tea, let them," she vowed, fierceness replacing her uncertainty. "This is our journey, Jack. Your past doesn't define who you are now. We'll show them that, together." He hesitated, still wrestling with the avalanche of doubts in his mind. But there was something in Jill's eyes that sparked a flicker of hope. "You really believe that?" "Absolutely," Jill said, feeling that warmth of connection again ignite between them. "But we need to focus on this." She took a deep breath and typed a quick reply, setting up a meeting for that very evening. As she hit send, it felt like she was making a decision, one that would shape the trajectory of their lives. The weight was still heavy, but at least they were tackling it head-on. "Now what?" Jack asked, still searching her face for answers. "Now we prepare. Let us lay everything out, face what we fear," she suggested. "It's time to confront the truth." Jack's eyes brightened, a blend of resolve and terror swirling in his expression. "Okay, let us do it." As they gathered their belongings, Jill could feel the warmth of determination settle in, pushing back against the niggling fear of the unknown. But just as they stepped outside into the cool evening air, another notification buzzed on her phone. Jill glanced down, her heart sinking again as she read the new message. "I know what you're hiding. Meet me tonight or I'll go public with it." The threat hung over them like a dark cloud, and Jill turned to Jack, desperation flooding her eyes. "What do we do now?" Jack's expression hardened, the flicker of hope dimming, and Jill could sense the storm was far from over. Jill's breath caught in her throat. The words on her screen felt like a noose tightening around her heart. "I can't believe this is happening," she whispered, her pulse quickening. Jack stepped closer, as if drawing strength from her. "Who is it?" he asked, his voice low. "Who is threatening you?" "I don't know. Just someone who knows something," Jill replied, panic surging like a tide within her. "I can't let anyone hurt you, Jack." He took her hands in his, squeezing firmly. "Then we'll figure this out. Together. No running. No hiding." They stepped away from the cafe, the distant chatter fading into whispers as they moved toward the park, a sanctuary from the intensity enveloping them. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows. With each step, the weight of the conversation ahead loomed larger. "Let us find a place to talk," Jill suggested, urgency threading through her words. She led Jack to a quiet bench under a tree, its leaves rustling softly in the wind. They sat, close enough that their shoulders brushed, a thread of warmth in the chill of the evening. Jack ran a hand through his hair, frustration etched across his face. "I thought we were past all this. I thought I was doing better." "You are," Jill said softly, leaning closer. "But this is about your past and my job. It's all colliding and we need to untangle it. But we can't let fear dictate our choices." Jack's eyes flickered with doubt. "What if they do go public? What happens to us?" "I refuse to let this tear us apart," she declared, her voice steady even as her insides churned. "If it comes to that, we'll stand together. I'll fight for you, Jack, like you fought for yourself." He hesitated, the conflict playing out on his face. "I don't want to put you at risk. But this is about us," Jill countered. "If they uncover the truth, it may hurt our future. But running away, that would hurt even more. I couldn't live with that." His jaw tightened, and for a moment, Jill was lost in his eyes, the mix of fear, anger, and the tiniest spark of hope. Hope that had flickered feebly in the dark for too long. "You really believe we can face this?" he finally asked. "I have to believe it," Jill replied, her voice firm. "Because I believe in us." Jack exhaled deeply, the tension in his shoulders easing just a fraction. "Then let us get ahead of this. We need to figure out what people know and who this person is." Jill nodded, relief blossoming slightly in her chest. "But we also need to prepare for the meeting with my boss. Whatever he knows, we need to face it." "Right," Jack said, taking a deep breath as if summoning courage. "We'll protect each other, no matter what." They stood up, hands entwined. Jill felt steadied by his presence, a quiet strength fueling her. As they made their way back toward the crowded streets, Jill's phone buzzed again, but she didn't check it. "Let us focus on each other," she said, wanting to block out the noise, the threats, everything else for just a little while longer. "Okay," Jack replied, his grip on her hand tightening slightly. "But we're in this together, right?" "Always," she promised, her heart still racing, half from fear, half from the anticipation of what lay ahead. Yet, as they headed towards the car, something nagged at her. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves once more. Jill's heart sank as she remembered the ominous message, the threat still loomed over them. "Jack," she hesitated, the raw uncertainty pricking at her resolve. "What if we find out that the person who is threatening me is someone we know?" The weight of that reality hung heavily between them, shadows deepening as the night wrapped around them. Jack's eyes widened, and in that moment, the storm they faced felt more turbulent than ever. The city lights flickered like distant stars as Jill sat in the passenger seat, her mind racing. Jack drove silently, his jaw set, eyes focused on the road ahead. The hum of the engine barely distracted from the heavy thoughts swirling between them. "I can't shake the feeling that whoever this is, they want more than just to scare us." Jill finally broke the silence. "What if they have proof? What if they try to use it against us?" Jack glanced over, the tightness in his expression deepening. "We'll deal with it. Whatever comes, we can handle it together." His voice was resolute, yet Jill could sense the underlying concern. "Together," she whispered, testing the word on her lips. It felt like a promise, but also a reminder of their vulnerability. As he pulled into the parking lot of their apartment complex, Jill felt her heart rate pick up, not just from the looming unknown but from the familiarity of their haven. The comfort of home seemed miles away now, a world apart from the threat hanging over them. "Do you want to talk to Hannah?" Jack asked as they stepped out of the car. Hannah was Jill's closest friend and co-worker. She had a way of grounding Jill when everything felt chaotic. But could they trust her with this? "I don't know," Jill replied, biting her lip. "What if it puts her in danger too? I can't put anyone else at risk." Jack placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Hannah's solid. She won T back down easily. But it's your call." In truth, the familiarity of their apartment, with its cozy couches and kitchen filled with memories, somewhat calmed her restless heart. Yet, there was still a storm brewing inside. "Let us just take a breath," she suggested, as they made their way through the door. Inside, she flipped on the light, the soft glow pulling at the shadows cluttering their thoughts. "First, we need to talk about your meeting tomorrow," Jack said, leaning against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. "Your boss must know something and we need to be ready for it." "Right," Jill sighed, rubbing her temples. "I'll have to confront him in front of everyone. Part of me wonders if that's even smart. It's the only way to tackle this head-on," Jack urged, appearing more confident than Jill felt. "You don't want to leave him the chance to put you on the back foot. Let him know you're serious." She couldn't help but admire his determination. "Okay," she nodded, although doubt still simmered within her. "But what if he reveals things that might hurt us? Things about your past?" "Then we deal with that too," Jack said, his voice fierce and unwavering. "We'll show them we're not afraid. I won't let them stand in the way of what we're building." Jill took a breath. It weighed heavy but also cleared the haze a bit. She tried to breathe in confidence instead of fear. "Together?" she asked again, meeting his eyes. "Always," he repeated, his gaze steady and fierce. The phone buzzed against the countertop, startling them both. Jill hesitated for a moment, then picked it up. Her heart sank as she read the text, the message sending chills down her spine. "Jill, I know your secret. Meet me tomorrow at noon. It is time we talk or else." She felt Jack's breath catch in his throat as he leaned closer to see the screen. "What the hell does this mean?" he demanded, anger igniting in his eyes. "I don't know, but it doesn't sound good," she said, an icy dread creeping into her veins. Jack moved closer, fists tightening at his sides. "We'll find out who this is. We'll end this." Jill looked into his eyes, both terrified and comforted by the fire that sparked there. What had they gotten themselves into? As they faced the uncertainty ahead, her mind raced with thoughts of who could be behind this threat. Could it be someone from her workplace? A competitor? Or worse, a familiar face? "Jack, what if it's someone close to us? What if we can't trust anyone?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. The world they thought they knew suddenly felt like quicksand pulling them down. Hope and fear tangled in her heart as she clutched her phone tightly, and somewhere within, a thought gnawed at her. If the truth came out, could their connection withstand it? Their eyes locked, and in that moment of shared fear, they both knew one thing. Tomorrow would change everything. The clock ticked loudly in the silence, marking the time until their lives could potentially spiral apart or solidify into something stronger. Jill glanced at Jack, determination playing in his eyes, but panic churned deep within her. She felt like a porcelain doll, delicate and ready to shatter. "Are you sure we can trust each other?" she asked, breaking the stillness. "What if this reveals something we can't come back from?" "Jill, we have to believe in each other," Jack replied, his voice steady but edged with urgency. "No matter what we face, we're in this together." The words wrapped around her like a lifeline. They had fought so hard to create the life they had. Wasn't it worth fighting for now? She nodded, swallowing her doubt, but her thoughts were a swirling tempest. "Okay, we'll figure it out tomorrow," she said resolutely. The plan felt thin, fragile against the looming threat, but it was all they had for now. They settled in, a shadow of normality resuming as they prepared dinner. The aroma of garlic and olive oil filled the air, momentarily distracting Jill from the gnawing fear. Jack began to chop vegetables, his movements methodical, a slight smile breaking through his earlier tension. "You remember our first dinner together?" he asked, glancing over at her with a playful smirk. "How could I forget?" Jill chuckled, recalling the burnt pasta and awkward silences. "It's hard to ruin spaghetti, but we managed." "Hey, I didn't hear any complaints from you," he shot back, laughter bubbling to the surface. For a brief moment, the laughter pushed away their worries, leaving just two people navigating a complicated world together. But as they shared stories about mundane moments, the weight of the impending confrontation loomed. By the time they finished dinner, a deep silence settled back in. "Let us just go to bed early," she suggested, glancing nervously at the clock. It felt like an admission of defeat, the need for rest, while outside the world spun with uncertainty. "Good idea," Jack said, his voice softer. They moved to their bedroom quietly, both lost in thought. Lying in bed, Jill stared up at the ceiling, where shadows danced in the dim light. Her mind raced. Did they even stand a chance against this unknown threat? The thought sent a chill creeping down her spine. Suddenly, the essence of their relationship, built on trust and shared dreams, felt fragile, as if untested by true adversity. "What if tomorrow changes everything?" she murmured, unable to keep the tremor from her voice. Jack turned to her, eyes fierce and protective. "Then we change with it. Together. Promise, Jill." His words, simple yet profound, settled over her like a warm blanket. She reached for his hand in the darkness, intertwining their fingers. The simple act felt monumental. In that moment, they were each other's anchor. Sleep eluded her, but as dawn broke, Jill felt the weight shift. There was a mix of dread and determination brewing within her. When morning light kissed the room, she blinked away the fatigue. Together, they would face whatever awaited them, even if it meant tormenting truths surfaced. Jack was already awake, dressed, and pacing the living room. "Are you ready?" he asked, his demeanor shifting from sleepy to steely. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied, her heart pounding. Questions lingered, fear clawed at the edges of her resolve, but confidence sparked within her, ignited by Jack's steadiness. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the chaos waiting outside. They would go into that meeting armed with their truths, unafraid to confront the shadows looming over them. But as they approached the office, Jill noticed something odd about Jack's expression, a fleeting shadow crossing his face. "What is it?" she asked, anxiety clawing at her. He hesitated, uncertainty lining his features. "I just got a message," he started, his voice barely above a whisper. "If it's about the meeting." "No, it's not that," he interrupted. "It's from my brother. He wants to see me today urgently." Jill's heart raced. What could possibly be that important? "Jack," he turned to her, eyes filled with a mix of concern and something deeper. "I have to go, don't I?" Jill swallowed, the impending confrontation with her boss fading beneath the weight of this new threat. "Yeah, you do. But be careful." As she watched him walk away, a sinking feeling took root. What did his brother want? Would this dash their plans further? The answer remained trapped in the air, and Jill clutched her phone tightly, knowing the day would only get more complicated. Tomorrow might change everything, but today was already stepping onto unknown ground. What awaited them now? Jill stood at the entrance of the office building, the vast glass facade reflecting the early morning sun. A sense of urgency pulsed within her. She should have felt ready. After all, she had prepared for this moment. But with Jack walking away, the knot in her stomach tightened. The meeting felt more daunting now. She pulled her phone from her pocket, scrolling through her messages. No missed calls or texts from Jack. The silence gnawed at her. Just a few minutes ago they had been a team, but now the gap between them felt like a chasm. What if this meeting went terribly wrong? What if Jack's brother needed him for something monumental? Jill pushed through the glass doors. The cool air of the lobby hit her like a wave. She spotted the elevator and walked towards it, her thoughts racing with questions. Each ding of the elevator felt like a countdown. On the ride up, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease. She rehearsed what she would say, but her mind kept wandering back to Jack. Did he have any idea what his brother wanted? As the doors slid open on her floor, she took a deep breath and stepped out, determination flooding her senses. She had worked hard for this opportunity. Failure wasn't an option. Inside the conference room, the atmosphere was electric with tension. Her boss and a couple of executives were already seated, their expressions serious. All the energy she had tried to muster faded as she slid into her chair. The room darkened as the projector whirred to life, and her heart raced at the sight of the figures on the screen. Jill, her boss started, eyes piercing. We need to discuss the new strategy for the client pitch. This is crucial for our upcoming campaign. She nodded, forcing herself to focus. They laid out plans, deadlines, and expectations. It was everything she had been preparing for. But just as she managed to find her rhythm, her mind drifted back to Jack. Was he with his brother? Was he okay? Minutes passed like hours, and as her boss rattled off important figures, Jill's phone buzzed against the smooth table surface. A quick glance showed it was a notification from Jack's messaging app. Her heart leaped. Almost instinctively, she reached for it but paused. Should she check it now? Focus on the meeting or her husband? The tension in her chest thickened. What if it was something dire? Jill? Her boss called her name again, breaking through her thoughts. Sorry, she replied, face flushing. She honed in on his words, trying to absorb every detail. Finally, the meeting drew to a close. As the executives began to collect their things, she felt the weight slide off her shoulders just slightly. It hadn't been perfect, but it wasn't a disaster either. Through the chaos, she had held her ground as she gathered her belongings. The urge to check her phone became overwhelming. She slipped it out, biting her lip as she opened the message. Hey, I'm okay. Just got back from seeing my brother. We need to talk when I get home. Her heart raced again, confusion blooming alongside relief. What had happened? Why was it urgent? An avalanche of questions overwhelmed her, but she needed to stay grounded. With her mind spinning, she stepped outside to the fresh air. Taking a deep breath, she looked around, trying to quell her growing anxiety. It was a beautiful day, and somewhere in the warm sunlight was a path forward. But how could she see it with Jack's cryptic message weighing on her? Jill closed her eyes and envisioned herself working beside Jack, discussing their fears and dreams. A smile erupted on her face. Their bond could weather any challenge, couldn't it? But the still, small voice of doubt crept in, urging her to pause. The phone buzzed again, snapping her back to attention. Another message from Jack. Can we meet at our spot later? There is something I need to share. Her pulse quickened. Something was brewing underneath the surface, and it didn't feel like just a simple talk. What lay beneath this vague urgency? Was their relationship about to confront another storm? With questions swirling in her mind, she found a bench nearby and sank into its comfort, heart racing. What truth awaited her? What would she discover when the sun dipped below the horizon? Jill sat on the edge of the park bench, a whirlpool of anxiety swirling in her stomach. The beauty of the day seemed to mock her turmoil. Despite the sun shining brightly overhead, shadows loomed over her heart. Jack's last text gripped her with urgency. Yet burdens settled deeper. What could his brother have said that would require an intense conversation? She imagined his face, the determination in his eyes, and it ignited a flicker of hope. But how many more storms could they weather? As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows, Jill rose. Her heart settled on one thing she needed to know. She made her way home, determination coursing through her veins. Be brave, she told herself. Whatever it was, they would face it together. When she walked through the door, Jack's presence pulled her in like gravity. He was standing in the kitchen, staring out of the window, his silhouette tense against the sunlit backdrop. She walked up to him, placing a hand on his arm, grounding them both amid the uncertainty swirling around them. Hey, she said softly, trying to read his expression. It was raw, revealing layers of concern mixed with resolve. Hey! Jack turned toward her, the stark timbre of his voice echoing the heaviness in the room. I spoke with my brother. What did he want? she asked, her heart pounding. Jack sighed heavily, slowly gathering his thoughts. He knows about some of the things I did. The past I thought I could leave behind. Jill could see the vulnerability on his face, but she also recognized a flicker of fiery determination igniting in him. Jack, you can't let that define you. You've changed, she urged, wanting desperately to peel back the layers of doubt. We both fought hard for our lives to mean something more. I know, he replied, gripping the counter, knuckles turning white. But he said if I don't return to the business, the past could resurface. They benched me and I can't let what I did hurt you, Jill. Her heart raced at the thought, memories flooding back of laughter shared, dreams whispered under starlit nights, resilience carved from struggle. Jack, you won T. You're not alone. I won T. Let you face this by yourself. Just then, Jack's phone buzzed, and both of them turned. He hesitated before picking it up, his expression shifting from determination to growing alarm. I didn't want to cause you more trouble. What is it? Jill's voice was barely above a whisper. The message read, You can't run from your past, Jack. I'll be seeing you soon. The weight of it slammed into Jill, the sense of impending chaos darkening the air. Who is this? The pressure, they're trying to drive a wedge between us. I don't know, Jack replied, frustration simmering in his gaze. But it's not just my life hanging in the balance. But it is. It is both our lives. She turned, stepping back slightly, needing clarity amid the swirling emotions. What do we do? Jack stepped closer, his eyes locking with hers, a steady resolve anchoring their connection. We stand firm. I won't let the past dictate us anymore. We'll face them together whatever it takes. That promise settled in the pit of her stomach like sweet balm. They had come too far to let shadows of the past steal their light. Right together. There was inference in her voice, strength in the syllables. They formulated a plan, mapping out every detail, going over ways to confront the person behind the threats. Jill felt hope, clairvoyant illumination fueling every word. The challenges loomed. However, she realized now they didn't have to let fear dictate their choices. The night wore on as they prepared, speaking through the darkness, clarifying thoughts, gathering resolve amid uncertainty. Tomorrow, we're not just facing the business, Jill. Tomorrow, we face the truth, Jack asserted, his voice layered with emotions that ran deep. Jill nodded, her heart full yet heavy. They were on the brink of change. Transformation awaited. They would confront all dangers together, emerge stronger, and discover what truly mattered in the end. The bond they forged through trials, their unwavering spirit like the stars above shining amid darkness. Morning light flooded the apartment, awakening hope within Jill. She grabbed Jack's hand, squeezing it tightly as they readied to step into a new chapter, turning potential chaos into unity, dreading yet anticipating whatever crossed their paths. We are unstoppable together, Jill affirmed, the weight of the world intertwining with the strength of their hearts. And as they walked out, ready to face whatever awaited, they left shadows behind, dancing bravely into the dawn of new possibilities. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help more people discover these incredible transformations. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Let us hear your voice. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we'll spread the light.